Sandy and I are having a conversation about journal supplies just to get you ready for our upcoming class.
Yeah, so I got a few supplies and I'm really excited to find out what you recommend if I got what I need. It's really kind of minimalist.
No, that's perfect.
So basically I got some markers, just
Yes, and
some regular
Crayola.
Crayola markers. I've actually been using them.
Great.
That's why they're all disorganized in the box.
Yep.
And I got this. It's a mixed media.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I was looking through journals and notebooks and all kinds of things, and I really wanted to have just the blank pages.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to size, I didn't want anything smaller than this.
So Sandy, I love that you did that because you're going with what you feel as you're picking your journal. And there absolutely is no parameters on what's the best way to start your journal. The best type of journal is the one you want to create in. So what is that, 9 by 12? Is that the size of that?
Yes.
Okay, that's a pretty standard journal, 9 by 12. That's the one. If you see behind me, I have all my journals behind me. That's like this is one of, I don't know, one of my earlier journals like yours. It's the same size. I just was very drawn to starting big. And I think that's a very common thing, to start with the bigger journal. And that's beautiful. You have a lot of room to work with. If you feel overwhelmed by the size, then please know you can go really small. You can start really small. I wouldn't go smaller than something like this. This is 5 by 7. If you see the difference between these two, this is more of a pocket, like the moleskins come in this size. I wouldn't go smaller than this for your first journal because you're not going to really have much room to explore the different mediums if you choose to use them. So I would say for people starting out visual journaling, bigger is better because you're going to have more room. But if you feel like it's overwhelmed, then go a little smaller. So great. So you have your magic markers.
I have my magic markers, and I also got the mixed media because I've been known to throw it up on the easel and use a paintbrush.
Perfect. And thank you for mentioning that. So that's when Sandy says mixed media, that's the weight of the paper, the smoothness and the weight of the paper. So when we're creating art and using different materials, the surface you put the material on is going to make sort of a big difference, and whether or not the material will take onto the surface. And that's sort of an art thing, and it's super easy to start playing with it. But mixed media is the perfect paper to start with because it's a combination. It's a heavier weight. If you just use a notebook paper, right, this isn't just a regular thin notebook paper, which is beautiful to write on. But what I do when I'm painting, like I just did her yesterday, when I'm painting, I literally glue in a piece of watercolor paper. So I've got all, of course, I've got all these different pads of paper. I will rip them out. I will glue them into my journal. But I didn't do that when I first started journaling. That's like a whole other step. I just use the paper. And the best paper to use for different types of materials is your mixed media paper.
Okay. Yeah, and that takes me to the question of lines versus no lines.
Mm-hmm.
I
would say for our visual journal this time, if you're brand new at it, don't get lines. Try to get one that does not have lines. If you're like, you know what, I'm really comfortable with lines, because people who write may be very comfortable with lines, then do it. But it might be harder for you to think in terms of putting images on pages that have lines. I love using lines and dots. They make all different kinds of journals now. But you kind of have to be willing to say, I'm going to draw on the lines. I don't mind if the lines show. So if you like that, fine. But I would say if you just beginning visual journaling, I would say pick a journal that doesn't have lines because it's going to be easier for you. And then you can always rip pages out of a notebook with lines and glue it into your unlined one. So it gives you lots of different options to work with. I also think that everybody should have on that note, and most people have this, a nice pair of sharp scissors, because if you do want to cut, if you're collaging which is a fun journal exercise. A lot of people have done that. You want a nice pair of sharp scissors that you like using. You can get some now that aren't very expensive, but have a dedicated pair. We all have pairs of scissors all over the house that we use for different things. And I would say a glue stick or some Elmer's glue to start out with. Now, if you want to get super fancy, one of my new favorite, and we'll talk about this later in the class, but I love this Best Test paper cement because I do line my journals with so many different kinds of paper. It does actually make the paper lie super flat, and it's just a fun product. But anyway.
So is it very expensive?
It's not cheap. It's like, if for this bottle, it's like $7, $8. It will last a while, but it's like your rubber cement, but it's for paper particularly. I would say that's sort of like your specialty product if you start getting into this. But glue stick, definitely. Elmer's glue stick is a perfect thing to have because you might be cutting out even like a newspaper thing that you love and go, oh my God, I want this as part of my journal page. Boom, you cut it out, put it right in your journal, and you can carry this with you wherever you go. And it does stick really nice paper on paper. So we've got glue stick, we've got scissors, you got your markers. Now, the only thing I would recommend, Sandy, you might find that your markers are not bold enough because you got the washable kind. When you get something that says washable, that is literally the most non-toxic, but pretty much all markers have a little bit of toxicity in them. But those are really what we use for like really super kid marker because it's not going to draw that dark. Even with my like kids at school, the washable ones can get tricky because they're hard to get nice and dark on your paper. But I love Crayola. It was my first marker sets that I used in my journals. And they come in fine tips and they come in fat. But I would go with the non-washable ones because you can get like bold colors. You can get all that. That's just a tip for you. And those are super cheap. The other thing that people love to use, and I even like to use them too, is Sharpies. Sharpies are a lot of fun and they come in a lot of colors. They will bleed through some paper, but I think that's great. I love using the images on the other side of things. So Sharpies, everybody can find Sharpies. They come in really super colors and you can get them in the fine point or the ultra fine point. Now, if you're a person who loves crayons, most people don't, which is it's a great medium to use, especially when we talk about the inner child. But a little pack of crayons is a lot of fun to get. And I will offer this to you, a little challenge. Get something that part of you goes, I'm super scared of that material. Get one thing that you're like really, like part of you has always looked at and gone, that would be really cool, but I'm afraid to use it. I would recommend that. Like I'll talk about that during our 3 weeks, but like sometimes it's an oil pastel. Like people are like, they go and they see them and like, those are so cool, but I don't know how to use them. This is a perfect chance to get something, to buy something for yourself, for your journal. Think of it, if it's hard for you to buy for yourself, go, no, this is for my journal. That scares you a little bit to get. Now, it doesn't have to be something expensive, but there are some uber cool materials out there, and we'll be talking about them. But most of the time, people stumble because they feel they're not worthy of using the material because they don't know how. And I get that. It's tricky. But we're going to think of this as we're playing with this. And if something inside of you goes, oh my God, that's so cool, whatever that so cool thing is, I would say get it. And just, you may not use it right away. Sometimes I get products that they're on my shelf. I just have to wait for the right time to use them. That's what I want you to think about. Maybe one thing that you are like, say to yourself, I would like to know how to use this a little better. And I can help people with that. Like if you come prepared with that, I pretty much know how to use every material in a journal. So
okay.
I would love to be stumped. So stump me. See if you can.
My one thing that scares me is glitter.
Oh, I'm the glitter queen.
Oh no.
So I challenge you, Sandy, to get yourself a little thing of glitter.
Okay.
Or maybe you can call it fairy dust, because I find the word fairy dust much more palpable than glitter sometimes. Because we think of glitter as that old-fashioned, really chunky stuff that like doesn't come out of anything. But if you can find some beautiful fairy dust, pixie dust, even if it's in a beautiful bottle. I once had this gorgeous bottle of it, and like, you know, of course I have like a whole fairy house. Glitter is like second nature to me.
As you're talking, what I realize is, and I don't know if this is going to be for everyone in the group, but as you're saying, go get the fairy dust. I actually have some. And I'm wondering if the people who come to our workshop have a lot of the things that they picked up because it looked cool, or
Yes.
they used it for something else, you know. And I would imagine that there's probably stuff in your house or things that you've accumulated that you put in your desk drawer that you could use for a journal.
And I love that you said that, and I think that's a great place for us to really reiterate and conclude with: let the materials come to you as much as you seeking them out. So if it's hard, if you find yourself frustrated because you go to the art store, you go to the Legacy,
Walmart,
Walgreens, right? You can always get markers, you can always get, and I will say this, if you've had a marker box in your house since 1972, throw that darn thing out. You need to buy new markers. I'm sorry, that's the one place, because $4 you can get, $5 you can get new markers. I say that because markers do not last to infinity. Glitter does, markers do not. And it's sort of like wearing old makeup. You know not to wear old makeup. We are bad about that sometimes. We will have makeup that we love for years and years. Actually, you're only supposed to have it for a year tops, because the stuff inside of it does go bad a little bit. You know, it's like treating yourself to something that's fresh and new. So I would say get at least one new thing. At least one new thing. So it's a really great thing for women, particularly like women who really skimp and save, and you know, that's noble. But this is about finding that sparkle, you know, literally maybe and figuratively, within us so that we can create. So I don't care, like, I just say get one product that is brand new. If you have a great pair of scissors, don't go out and spend your money on, unless you want to, on scissors. Like anything that's consumable, like these will last a long time. I can sharpen them. Get a new glue stick, because glue sticks also like are crap after a while, and it's only like $2 for a glue stick. Okay, you're going to get a new journal, whatever that is, a notebook. You're going to get a new set of I think markers are the great place to start. A new set of markers and a glue stick. That's like bare minimum. Then you're right. Oh my God, you probably have some wonderful things in your house that are just waiting to be loved and used. And if it isn't, if you find it and you don't love it, and you don't want to use it, throw it out. Throw out what does not work anymore. It's okay to throw it out. And there's no point in having crappy art supplies that you're never going to use. Or if you found something like it's a beloved thing of you, then take it out. We are animating all this. There is a spirit in a life and everything. It's like we have to just bring it love, and it brings love back to us. So yeah, you might be really surprised at what this uncovers for everything else for you. Yeah, so I love that. Yes, perfect. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, so to summarize with the supplies.
Yes.
Search your house for things that you already have.
Yes.
Throw out the old markers, throw out things that are no longer good, create that space,
right.
Then buy at bare minimum a new journal. And new markers. If you need a pair of scissors, you get a pair of scissors, and then you're good to go.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah. And if you really get motivated, you can even, if you have a little box or you have a bag, like we at Blick, we have these great zip bags, plastic bags, $1 or $2. You put everything in a little plastic clear bag, and there you have your little toolbox.
Yeah,
but I love thinking in terms of that. I love having a little toolbox for this, a little toolbox for that. It makes my life easier. Yeah.
I'm ready.
Perfect.
I'm ready.
You're ready. This is exciting. And I'm really excited, and I think we're going to have a great time.